Weep, weep. What the fuck? Peter, what are you doing? What the fuck? Peter Griffin, what are you doing? Crack. What the fuck? Where'd you get crack? From blacks. Shut up. I want to play video games, but I have college classes to do. And I'm kind of pissed because last night, my internet company, CenturyLink, ShitteryLink, CuckeryLink, they were doing maintenance for like 12 fucking hours. And I had schoolwork to do. And my girlfriend had schoolwork to do as well. But they didn't warn us that they were going to shut off the fucking internet for the entire day until they shut it off. Then it was off for like 12 hours. So by the time they turned it back on, it was like 11:30. There was 30 minutes to do the fucking schoolwork that I had to do at midnight. So I'm just fucking skipping that. I should probably look at some of this for a bit though. Boom! Boom! What's this? Philosophy? Yeah, this was the assignment that was going to be due. Is this like Socratic method, Socratic dialogue? It's like the questioning thing. And I was going to ask my friends some random questions. Because you're supposed to use it on a friend. But, nope. This is another assignment I'll be doing. Let's see. Module 2, assignment 1. Oh, we have to identify arguments. So we need to textbook reading on arguments. Yeah. Is this just the beginning of chapter 2? Hold up. Is there like a table of contents? So I read this, right? I read that. Well, I read like half of it. I didn't read any of this, but it's gone. That was another week 1 thing. You know. And now we're on to chapter 2. So I guess we'll read this. We live in a time of multiple claims about truth. Many of these claims cannot be reconciled with each other. Some argue that truth is an elusive goal, a chimera, and that we should consider ourselves to be in a post-truth age. However, this kind of skepticism often reflects a failure to know how to rationally think through questions and arguments. I hate reading out loud because I read slow as fuck, so fuck you. Be right back. Shut up! Oh, that was actually too loud. Shut up! I don't know, I was just yelling. Philosophy has often recognized the difficulty of getting to the truth, but most philosophers still see the pursuit of truth as vital if we are to come to a better and better understanding of our experience. Logic is the discipline of thought whereby philosophers analyze and clarify arguments. Oh, this is exciting. Because one of the first things you learn about is the different sections of philosophy. There's metaphysics and epistemology and ethics. And then one kind of other thing on the side that's still really important is logic. And it makes perfect sense, but I just didn't connect it before. Fuck, my nose is stuffed. I didn't connect it before that arguments and logic are basically in the same little area, which is really exciting. I love arguments. Young man, what are you doing? Kill yourself. Just read. Just read it. Reading mode. Wait, no. How do I do the text? Translate to English. Man, fuck you. Do I need to take any notes on this yet? How have I done this before? Oh, so these pages are called... I'm not going to take any notes on this. This is really short. What would the world be like if it was held that nothing is true? How could we ever believe anything anyone told us? What would stop liars from controlling the world? How could courts of law determine any case before them? How could we ever evaluate one person's claim over another's? How could we ever trust anyone? What the fuck am I listening to? Although the attainment of truth is difficult, and perhaps human reason can never fully get us there on some questions, still, philosophy encourages us to strive for it. The pursuit of truth, at a minimum, helps us to become better thinkers, better reasoners, better arguers, or, as the philosopher Richard Rorty has put it, better at edifying each other. Cool. Logic, the philosophical art of discerning the structure and truth of arguments attempting to prove propositions. The word logic comes from the Greek logos, meaning word or reason, and from logika techne, meaning the art of reasoning. Key to this art is the ability to recognize and evaluate the structure and components of good arguments. Ah! Loud. Is the mic too loud? It's too loud if I yell into it. If I yell into it, but if I talk normal, it's like reasonable. I don't know. Let me set this up real quick. Hold up. What else do I put here? Oh, Discord. The remainder of this chapter borrows from Matthew J. Van Cleve's Introduction of Logic and Critical Thinking, version 1.4, chapter 1, Reconstructing and Analyzing Arguments. You'll also find some common logical fallacies discussed in the appendix of this textbook. Alright, that's exciting. The structure and truth of arguments attempting to prove propositions. Let's just make a section called arguments, right? Right? That kind of works. We're done with that. Let's see. By the end of this discussion, or this section, you will discover what constitutes an argument in logic, the meaning of terms, statement, premises, and conclusions. Both logic and critical thinking essentially involve the analysis and assessment of arguments. Argument is a word that has multiple distinct meanings, so it is important to be clear from the start about the sense of the word that is relevant to the study of logic. In one sense of the word, an argument is a heated exchange of different views, as in the following. Sally: abortion is murder! Oh, sorry, it's morally wrong, and the... abortion is morally wrong, and those who think otherwise are seeking to justify murder. But Bob says, abortion is not morally wrong, and those who think so are right-wing bigots who are seeking to impose their narrow-minded views on all the rest of us. That is a heated exchange of differing views. Because these are not philosophical arguments at all, right? It's just, this is my statement and plus an insult based. Or it's just a statement plus a statement, I guess. Or just a conclusion plus just a conclusion. What's the difference between a statement and a conclusion? That's what we're going to have to learn. Sally and Bob are having an argument in this exchange. That is, they're exchanging conflicting views in a heated manner. However, that is not the sense of argument with which logic is concerned. Logic concerns a different sense of the word argument. An argument in this case is a reason for thinking that a statement, claim, or idea is true. I'm bald! Dude, I can't do this. I just need a haircut. It's just all around awful. God damn. Yeah. Fuck off. Okay. A reason for thinking that a statement, claim, or idea is true. That sounds like just the... Please break this down more. My understanding, my guess that I already wrote down is An argument is a claim or conclusion that is supported with some justification. So you have, I don't know if this counts as a real argument, but you could say like abortion is wrong because killing people is wrong. Kind of like you have a statement and then you have a justification that bolsters this statement. I don't know if this is a perfect example, but and this is just an example. I don't believe this. A reason for thinking that a statement, claim, or idea is true. So there's different common definitions of arguments. Logic is concerned with, what is it? Oh, as a reason for thinking a statement, claim, or idea is true. And then how do I organize this? I don't know. Let's just, I like breaking it into sections and then having like the bullet points. Like this shit is really exciting. Where it's just clean. I can just have like the points. So this is, what is an argument? Boom. Is where we are. A logical argument is a set of statements attempting to prove the truth of a proposition. For example, here we go. Abortion is morally wrong because it is wrong to take the life of an innocent human being, and a fetus is an innocent human being. This is perfect. You have your, this is your conclusion, right? And then these bolster it. These are justifications, kind of, right? This is like why it's wrong. These are just both justifications, I think, unless there's, I don't know how else to look at it. Those are premises, right? In this example, Sally has given an argument against the moral permissibility of abortion. That is, she has given us a reason for thinking that abortion is morally wrong. The conclusion of the argument is the first 4 words. Abortion is morally wrong. And then she says, because. But whereas in the first example, Sally was simply asserting that abortion is wrong and then trying to put down those who support it. In this example, she's offering a reason for why abortion is wrong. Based. Statements. The lines of an argument, including premises and conclusion, which could be expressible by a sentence and are either true or false. The lines. Okay, so a statement is, that's a statement. Abortion is morally wrong. It is wrong to take the life of an innocent human being. That's another statement. And then fetus is an innocent human being is another statement. This has 3 statements. And then 2 premises and 1 conclusion. Okay, that's good. So the conclusion is the end result or position of an argument. The premises, what do they call it? attempting to prove the conclusion. Statements attempting to prove the conclusion. I should put statement in all of these. Statements are the individual like separate ideas in an argument, and each one can be true or false. So you can have a mix of true and false things, right? Isn't that what this said? Lines of an argument is another. Mm-hmm. Explaining why the conclusion is true. Based. We can and should be more precise about our definition of an argument. But before we can do that, we need to introduce some further terminology that we will use in our definition. As I've already noted, the conclusion of Sally's argument is that abortion is morally wrong. But the reason for thinking the conclusion is true is what we call the premise. So we have two parts of an argument, the premise and the conclusion. Typically, a conclusion will be supported by two or more premises. Both premises and conclusions are statements. A statement is a type of sentence that can be true or false and corresponds to the grammatical category of declarative sentence. For example, the sentence, the Nile River, the Nile is a river in northeastern Africa. Why are you running? This is a statement. Cool. Why? Why is it a statement? Because it makes sense to inquire whether it is true or false. In this case, it happens to be true. Oh yeah? Is the Nile a river in northeastern Africa? Africa. Yes. Oh wow, it is true. It just happens to be true. Interesting. The Yangtze is a river in Japan. But a sentence is still a statement even if it is false. For example, the sentence, the Yangtze is a river in Japan. You can tell it's not in Japan because there's no way Japanese can spell that. Yangtze. This is like Korean. It's not even Korean, it's Chinese or some other shit. That's still a statement. It is just a false statement. It's just false. The Yangtze's river is in China. In contrast, none of the following sentences are statements. Please help yourself to more casserole. Don't tell your mother about the surprise. Do you like Vietnamese pho? The reason none of these sentences are statements, let's see, why aren't they? These are commands. Is a command really a type of... Is a command a type of sentence? I learned this in elementary school, but it just sounds dumb. These are commands and this is a question. Could you change these to declarative statements? Like, what if this was, you should help yourself to more casserole? Then you could, then that's a statement. And you could bolster it, or you can give it premises and combine it with other statements. You shouldn't tell your mother about the surprise. This is just not a statement, it's a question. I don't know how to do that. The reason that none of these sentences are statements is that it doesn't make sense to ask whether these statements are true or false. Yeah, exactly. Rather, they are requests or commands and questions, respectively. So to reiterate, all arguments are composed of premises and conclusions, which are both types of statements. The premises of the argument provide a reason for thinking that a conclusion is true. The arguments typically involve more than one premise. A standard way of capturing the structure of an argument is by numbering the premises and conclusions. For example, recall Sally's argument against abortion. Abortion is morally wrong because... This is the conclusion. 1. It is wrong to take the life of an innocent human being. And 2. A fetus is an innocent human being. Oh, there we go. And then you can put that at the end. Premise 1, premise 2, conclusion. Therefore, abortion is morally wrong. Demolished. How about that, liberals? By convention, the last numbered statement, also denoted by therefore, is the conclusion, and the earlier numbered statements are the premises. This is what we call putting an argument into standard argument form. We can now give a more precise definition of an argument. An argument is a set of statements, some of which, the premises, attempt to provide a reason for thinking that some other statement, the conclusion, is true. Although arguments are typically given in order to convince or persuade someone of the conclusion, the argument itself is independent of one's attempt to use it to convince or persuade. For example, I have just given you this argument not in an attempt to convince you that abortion is morally wrong, but as an illustration of what an argument is. They're trying to brainwash me! Later on in this chapter, we will learn some techniques of evaluating arguments. But for now, the goal is to learn to identify an argument, including its premises and conclusions. It is important to be able to identify arguments and understand their structure, whether or not you agree with the conclusion of the argument. In the next section, I will provide some techniques for being able to identify arguments. Here we go. Which of the following sentences are statements and which are not? No one understands me but you. Is this technically a statement? It's just like, that's a statement, isn't it? Gotta be really autistic with this. Alligators are on average larger than crocodiles. That's a statement. Yep. Is an alligator a reptile or a mammal? Why would you even ask me that? That's not a statement. That's a question. An alligator is either a reptile or a mammal. I guess that's a statement. Yeah. So we got statement, statement, question, not a statement. Statement, don't let any reptiles into the house. That's not a statement, that's a command or request. You may kill any reptile you see in this house. That's not a statement. Is it? Shit, is it a statement? Or is it it's a request or a command? I don't know if that's a statement. I feel like it's a command disguised as a statement. East Africans are not the best distance runners. That's a statement, but it's fucking wrong. Are East Africans the best distance runners? Yes, East African runners, particularly from Kenya and Ethiopia, are considered the best distance runners, dominating major international competitions for over 50 years. Since the late 1980s, these athletes have secured roughly 75% of major international marathon and distance running victories. Their success is attributed to a combination of high altitude training, efficient physiological, and genetic traits, as well as strong cultural focus on running. Wow. Do East Africans have long legs? Yes, East Africans do have long legs. Yes, many populations in East Africa, particularly in Kenya, Ethiopia, and among Nilotic groups. I'm so distracted. Obama is not a Democrat. That's a statement. Some humans have wings. That's a statement. Some things with wings cannot fly. That's also a statement. Was Obama bin Laden born in Kenya or Hawaii? That's a question. A very intriguing question. Barack Hussein Obama? Do you think... Wait. Does Obama have long legs and therefore is good at running because he's from Kenya? Barack Obama is of partial Kenyan descent through his father, but he was born and raised in Hawaii, not Kenya. While he is 6 foot 1/2 inch, has maintained a very high level of fitness throughout his life, and has been described as having a lean, athletic build. Claims regarding his running ability being linked to his Kenyan heritage are based on stereotypes about physical traits and athletic performance. We should have a presidential, or at least like a world leader Olympics, and we should put all of our leaders in a competition against each other. I bet Obama would kick their ass in running. That's so stupid. Oh no, a grizzly bear. That's not a statement. Meet me in St. Louis. Not a statement. We met in St. Louis yesterday. This is a statement, I think. I do not want to meet a grizzly bear in the wild. Is that a statement? I don't know. It's like a very personal thing that you can't really tell if it's true or false, but it is a statement, I guess. Or it's like a preference. Huh. Wait, these aren't the same as my assignment, are they? Look. Yeah, this shit. We're doing the exact same thing here. Let's do some of these. Leroy was out of town at the time, so he must not be the one responsible for losing the hamster. That's an argument. Arguments or non-arguments. So for it to be an argument, it has to have... It's composed of statements, and some of the statements are premises, and then there's a conclusion. Bats use sonar to navigate through space, which is not something humans can do. Those are statements, but they're not arguments. Every motion is caused by a prior motion. This ball is in motion. Hence, it must have been caused by a prior motion. This is kind of an argument. Premise. The conclusion is basically the ball is in motion because of a prior motion. And this is a premise. Every motion is caused by a prior motion, and then this ball is in motion, which means that it was caused by a prior motion. That's an argument, I think. Dinner must be ready. After all, the table's set. Oh, the table's all set. That's an argument, right? The conclusion is that dinner's ready, and the premise is that the table is set. This is just a statement. Alright, I'll do more of this later. These are going to be way fucking harder. What about this? David Conrad is one of the best citizens in southern Illinois. He has fought many battles trying to do things for all of us. I consider him a very wise man and a good friend. Yet his editorial effort of December 11th, in which he argued that the recent resolution to the pension problem was justified on the grounds that it was an ethical act, meaning, according to David, doing good doesn't resonate with me. Okay, I don't know if this is an argument at all. Pickle Rick. I'll be right back. I'm going for a few minutes. I'm gonna make coffee or something. Obama. 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 Where are you, Obama? Obama. Where is Obama? Mr. Obama. Where have you gone, Mr. Obama? That's creepy as fuck. You're just staring at a jar door. Look at this. This painting is fucking. I don't remember what the artist is or some shit, but that's pretty funny. It's a fucking caveman with fast food. Fuck you. The coffee's done. Hold up. Check it out. Vanilla caramella. I always put too much creamer in my coffee. Too sweet. It's good though. 커피. 커피. 안녕하세요. 커피 주세요. 커피 맛있어요. 맛있습니다. Finally, we've discovered Obamnium. Obamna. Now we can recreate Obamna. I have a fucking GPU sitting out over here, dude. I actually recorded. I took this piece of shit apart. And I put new thermal pads on it. And I reapplied the thermal paste. And it helped a little bit, but this card is still so fucked up. Something is uneven. Like, some of the thermal pads on it are too fat or too skinny. They're too fat. Something is too fat on there. So, the thermal paste doesn't connect to the heatsink. And the GPU die doesn't connect to the heatsink. Because I remember I put all that shit together. I put the thermal paste on. I spread it really well. I used my old debit card and I scraped it so it'd be flat. And then I plugged it in and it didn't work. So after retrying it like 50 times, I took it out and I took it apart again. And there was 0 thermal paste on the heatsink. So it was all just sitting on the GPU die. So it wasn't like making contact. So the GPU die couldn't cool itself off at all. And then I tried to put a little bit more thermal paste on so it would at least connect to the heatsink a little bit, and that did help a tiny bit, but it's still fucked. Like if you I was trying to play Factorio. Actually, it worked on Factorio, but I tried to launch CSGO, Legacy CSGO, which is easier to run than CS2, and it crashed. It crashed real fast. But it's just thermal problems with that piece of shit. Check out my Gleba base. Hold up. Sorry. So Gleba's pissing me off. It's okay. It's just different. Hold up. My shit is there's an extra input and an extra output for basically everything. So some of this shit looks like spaghetti. Like like this stuff. Like I tried to keep it a little organized. The way that I have done stuff just to keep it uniform and working correct is I've always made like, so you could see it's kind of unorganized down here. I have a copper bus, an iron bus, a steel bus, circuit bus, gear bus, and basically there's a coal here as well. As I make more and more products, I basically just put the entire product on the bus. Plastic, red circuits make sense, but I have a whole bus here for green and red science. And it just travels with the rest of the bus all the way up to the labs. Same thing with, well, this makes sense because it's a component for the other science, but like sulfur and plastic sharing a bus, grenades and these guys sharing a bus. Some of them make sense, but you could see there's one of these that are just kind of crazy. Oh, it's altered because I've changed this factory a little bit, but I'll put fucking robot things on a bus and electric engines and batteries. Like any random thing I make, if I'm making like a decent amount of it, I just put it straight back onto the bus. And this looks different because I've changed my factory since Space Age and just since playing. But that's kind of what I'm doing on Gleba. I just, there's like a bunch of different things I need, and I just make an individual lane on the bus for each of them. But I'm thinking that, I mean, this is working okay for now, but I'm thinking that it would be a little bit more challenging, but it might be a lot better to, I saw one guy do this on YouTube or TikTok or some shit. The only thing he put on his bus was the jelly nuts and the Yumakos, because these take the longest to spoil. And then if you need something, you just tear it off of the bus and you make all of it right there. So instead of having this whole section for Yumako mash, if I wanted to make Yumako mash nutrients, I would just take Yumako off of the bus, make Yumako mash there, and then make nutrients there. But don't bring any of that extra shit besides the nutrients, I guess, to the bus. But I don't know if that would be difficult. And I like having a lane for spoilage. It's like the fucking sewer. You just dump it all in and it gets over here, gets recycled or whatever. All this shit is just getting destroyed. Type shit. It's not getting any. Stop fucking hogging all of it. You fat cow. This shit is maxed out. We're burning so much. I don't know what I'm going to do next. The next thing I need to do with this base is I just need to make iron, copper, steel, and then start making the basic shit. Fuck, I need plastic and oil. I'm going to hate this shit. Biosulfur, bioplastic, biolubricant, rocket fuel from jelly. I need spoilage as an actual ingredient for sulfur. This is going to be a nightmare to figure out. But then I guess from this stuff I should be able to make all the shit I need so that I can actually launch rockets, but we'll see. I'm going to do more schoolwork in 1 second. I just wanted to check on this real quick. Something I like doing is... Well, the thing that sucks so far about this factory is that it takes a lot of manual input, or it at least greatly benefits from manual input, so it's very useful for me to hang out here. And one thing is, I can check when these are about to spoil, and this is fucking useless because this is already max temperature, but I can throw a bunch of extra fuel in this. It was really useful earlier when this was like getting cold and I was running out of steam all the time. But I guess now it doesn't matter because I have enough shit to burn and keep my electricity going. No more distractions. Could I really just read this whole thing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No. I'm not reading the whole thing. I need to, like, go hard on this philosophy class, though. Because I have the economics class down. You know, you just read the... This guy has notes, and then he has lectures based on the notes. And then he has, like, a discussion, and he wants you to turn in your notes. And then there's quizzes the next week. So all of it makes perfect sense to me. The only thing I fucking hate about that guy is... I tried turning in my notes, which are amazing. These are amazing notes. I reworded everything in a way that makes sense to me, and I asked questions about things that I was curious about, and I have like all this random shit here. This is how I write notes. This is the best way to do it. I turned them in, and he's like, these need to be handwritten. They need to be handwritten. So I'm literally gonna open up Paint, and I'm just gonna handwrite like a couple random points, like 1 resources are scarce. Fuck you. I'm hoping if I just do a little bit of handwriting that maybe it'll help. But that really pisses me off because this is my way of doing notes, and I sit here and I understand his point of doing the handwriting is that when people are handwriting, it's easier to remember what you're writing down. But I try to meaningfully take notes. I'm not just blindly copying shit. Like, I'm thinking about what I'm writing, and I'm sitting here and I'm reviewing my shit, and I know what my notes say. So that pissed me off a little bit. But other than that, the economics class works. It's pretty solid. It's pretty tight. It makes sense, and everything is consistent. But this one is not quite the same. The only pattern I have here is that there's assignments and discussions. I don't know anything about... I guess there are quizzes. It's not fucking loading. And the worst thing is these are all due on like completely different days. Look, this is due on the 3rd. This is due on the 4th. These are due on the 7th and the 9th and the 10th. And there's like no clear distinction between which week we're working on, besides the module, I guess. It's just module 2. So that's kind of irritating. Let's read a little more of this. We probably should. 2.2. That was all about what is an argument. Makes sense. I don't think we need any more things there. By the end of this section, you will discover how to recognize premise and conclusion indicators. So let's do... I don't need it to be bold. Identifying arguments. Cool. Let's get some points in. The best way to identify whether an argument is present is to ask whether there is a statement that someone is trying to establish as true by basing it on some other statement. Based. If so, then there is an argument present. If not, then there isn't. Another thing that can help in identifying arguments is knowing certain key words or phrases that are premise indicators or conclusion indicators. For example, recall S. Allie's abortion argument. I don't recall a person named S. Allie. Abortion is morally wrong because it is wrong to take the life of an innocent human being, and a fetus is an innocent human being. Demolished. Premise indicators, words indicating that what follows is a premise in an argument. Because abortion is morally wrong because it is wrong to take the life, blah, blah, blah. The word because here is a premise indicator. That is, because indicates that what follows... okay. That is... Back up! The word because here is a premise indicator. That is, because indicates that what follows is a reason for thinking that abortion is morally wrong. I hate that sentence. Here is another example. I know that the student plagiarized since I found the exact same sentences on a website, and the website was published more than a year before the student wrote the paper. Since. In this example, the word since is a premise indicator because what follows it is a statement that is clearly intended to be a reason for thinking that the student plagiarized premise indicator because what follows is a statement that is clearly intended to be a reason for thinking that the student plagiarized. And that statement is a premise for the conclusion. The conclusion is that he plagiarized since. I'm getting too wrapped up on that. Notice that in these two cases, the premise indicators because and since are interchangeable. I would have used because in place of since, or since in the place of because, and the meaning of these sentences would have been the same. In addition to premise indicators, there are also conclusion indicators. Therefore is one of them, by the way. Conclusion indicators mark that what follows is the conclusion of an argument. Yeah, we got it. For example, Bob the arsonist has been dead for a year. So, Bob the arsonist didn't set fire at the East Lansing Starbucks last week. Bob the arsonist. My new favorite character. In this example, so that's a perfect one. Very simple word, but yeah. Therefore, so. In this example, the word so is a conclusion indicator because what follows it is a statement that someone is trying to establish as true. That would be a conclusion. Here's another example of a conclusion indicator. A poll administered by Gallup, a respected polling company, showed candidate X, Obama, to be substantially behind candidate Y, Mitt Romney, with only a week left before the vote. Therefore, candidate Y will probably not win the election. What? Okay, this is a fucked up, this is a false thing. They maybe misworded it. It's just for an example. But if candidate X is substantially behind... Oh, wait, never mind. Candidate X is behind candidate Y. No, yeah. That means that candidate Y should be ahead. Therefore, candidate Y should probably win the election. But they say that candidate Y probably would not. But it's just an example, so it doesn't matter. In this example, the word therefore is a conclusion indicator because what follows it is a statement that someone is trying to establish as true, the conclusion. As before, in both of these cases, the conclusion indicators so and therefore are interchangeable. Therefore, that's what I was saying. I could have used so in place of therefore, or therefore in the place of so, and the meaning of the sentences would have been the same. Table 1 indicates a list of common premise and conclusion indicators. Premise indicators. Since killing an innocent baby is bad. Oh wait, abortion is wrong. Since killing an innocent baby is bad. Because for what? Given that, seeing that, for the reason that, it's shown by the fact that, okay. Therefore, so, hence, thus, implies that. Consequently, it follows, we may conclude, by extension, maybe. Alright, makes sense. I didn't write any notes. So, words like so and therefore indicate that a conclusion will follow. How do you spell therefore? Does that have the E? Yeah. These are known as conclusion indicators. Hold up. Before we even get to that, you can identify arguments. You can identify arguments by seeing the structure of an argument, which is a bunch of statements where there's a conclusion and there's premises that justify the conclusion. And if you see these words, it's showing that there's a relationship between statements in a sentence that indicates that that's an argument. But that's way too long to write in my notes. What do they say about that? A statement that someone is trying to establish is true by basing it on some other statement. If so, there's often an argument present. If not, then there isn't. Another thing that can help by identifying arguments is knowing certain key words or phrases, the premise indicators and conclusion indicators. By looking for premise / conclusion indicators, which are present Okay. You can identify arguments by looking for premise / conclusion indicators, which are present in arguments, and make identifying arguments a little easier. We don't need this. Oh, this coffee's bad. What did I do to it? Is it too strong? It just never has enough creamer. If the coffee's bad, you just need to add more creamer. I'm not going to worry about that too much. I understand the point. Premise and conclusion indicators, which indicate the relationship between premises and conclusions. Ugh! Kill me! That's not... Okay. This is irritating the shit out of me. What else? What are the other indicators? Because is a premise indicator. Since. Words like because and since. Can you spell? Indicate that a premise will follow Alright, that makes enough sense. Alright. Although these words or phrases can be used to identify the premises and conclusions of arguments, they are not fail-safe methods of doing so. Just because a sentence contains them does not mean that you are dealing with an argument. Examples like this. I have been running competitively since 1999. That's what Obama said. Because he's from Kenya, so he has long legs. Demolished. I am so happy to have finally finished that class. Can indicate. Although sense can function as a premise indicator, and although so can function as a conclusion indicator, neither one is doing so here. Yep. This shows, what a block of text. This shows that you can't simply mindlessly use occurrences of these words in sentences to show that there is an argument being made. Rather, we have to rely on our understanding of the English sentence in order to determine whether an argument is being made or not. Thus, the best way to determine whether an argument is present is by asking the question, is there a statement that someone is trying to establish as true or explain why it is true by basing it on some other statement. If so, then there is an argument present. If not, then there isn't. Notice that if we apply this method to the above examples, we will see that there is no argument present because there is no statement that someone is trying to establish as true by basing it on some other statement. For example, the sentence, "I have been running competitively since 1999" just contains one statement, not two. So arguments always have at least two statements. But arguments always require at least two separate statements. Fuck you. One premise and one conclusion, so it cannot possibly be an argument. Arguments always contain at least two statements, at least one premise, and one conclusion. Where are we at? Another way of explaining why these occurrences of so and since do not indicate that an argument is present is by noting that both premise indicators and conclusion indicators are grammatically conjunctions. A grammatical conjunction is a word that connects two separate statements. So, if a word or term is truly being used as a premise or conclusion indicator, it must connect two separate statements. Thus, if since were really functioning as a premise indicator in the above example, then what followed it would be a statement. But 1999 is not a statement at all. Likewise, in the second example, so is not being used as a conclusion indicator because it is not conjoining two separate statements. Rather, it is being used to modify the extent of happy. In contrast, if I were to say Tom was sleeping, so he couldn't have answered the phone, then so is being used as a conclusion indicator. Tom was sleeping, so, and here's a new statement, he couldn't have answered the phone. Then so is being used as a conclusion indicator. In this case, there are clearly two separate statements, Tom was sleeping and Tom answered the phone, and one is being used as the basis for thinking that the other is true. Premise slash conclusion indicators are conjoining and relating to separate statements. Cool. If there's any doubt about whether a word is truly a premise slash conclusion indicator or not, you can use the substitution test. Simply substitute another word or phrase from the list of premise indicators or conclusion indicators to see if the resulting sentence still makes sense. If it does, then you're probably dealing with an argument. If it doesn't, then you probably aren't. For example, we could substitute "it follows that" for "so" in the Bob the Arsonist example. Bob the Arsonist has been dead for a year. Therefore, Bob the Arsonist didn't set fire to the East Lansing Starbucks last week. Bob the Arsonist has been dead for a year. Consequently, Bob the Arsonist didn't set fire to the East Lansing Starbucks last week. However, we cannot substitute "because" for "so" in the "so happy I finished that class" example. I am because happy to have finally finished that class. Okay, and he would say, "I am so happy." It's not "so I'm happy" or something weird like that. Sure. Obviously, in the latter case, the substitution of one conclusion indicator for another makes the sentence meaningless, which means that the so that occurred originally wasn't functioning as a conclusion indicator. Exercise number 2. Which of the following are arguments? If it is an argument, identify the conclusion of the argument. The woman in the hat is not a witch, since witches have long noses, and she doesn't have a long nose. That's an argument, right? The conclusion is that the woman in the hat is not a witch, since witches have long noses. I've been wrangling cattle since before you were old enough to tie your own shoes. I was wrangling cattle when you were in your daddy's balls. You hear that, boy? This is not... So they're trying to show there's a sense, which could be a premise indicator, I guess, but it's not here. This is a different definition. It's like a sense in time, since before you were old enough. Albert is angry with me, so he probably won't be willing to help me wash the dishes. You shouldn't have pissed Albert off if you wanted help with the dishes. Yeah, that's an argument. Because we have Albert doesn't want to help with the dishes is the conclusion. And the premise is that Albert is angry with me. I think. First, I washed the dishes, and then I dried them. It's not an argument. It's a statement, right? It's two statements, and they are conjoined. It's not an argument, though. Because in an argument, one statement would be justifying the other. It would be like a premise conclusion. These are both just statements. If the road wasn't icy, the car wouldn't have slid off the turn. Is that an argument? It feels like it is. Okay, so... Bro, I need one of these fucking alarms. I don't know if you can hear it because it's too quiet, but... I absolutely need to put a fucking nuclear alarm in my base. I'm excited to do that later. If the road wasn't icy, the car wouldn't have slid off the turn. Is that an argument? I feel like it could very easily be turned into an argument, but I don't know if this is an argument. It feels like... Is this just a big statement or two statements? If the road wasn't icy, the car wouldn't have slid off the turn. If the road wasn't icy, the car wouldn't have slid off the turn. Is there... I don't listen. If... Not to be too autistic about it, but... I think this is just a couple statements. And it's hard because it's not... What would the conclusion be? The conclusion would be like, that's why I'm saying you could easily turn this into an argument, but it doesn't feel like one. Would the conclusion be that the car wouldn't have slid off? The if is just, I don't know, you can't, I feel like you can't really base anything off that. I don't know. Maybe it's an argument. I would be surprised to hear why this is an argument, but it kind of just sounds like a couple statements that are pretty close to an argument, but and they could easily be, you could easily alter this sentence or alter this idea to turn it into an argument, but I don't know if this is an argument. If the road wasn't icy, the car wouldn't have slid off the turn. Albert isn't a fireman, and he isn't a fisherman either. Those are just two statements. Yeah. Are you seeing that rhinoceros over there? It is huge! That's not an argument. These are arguments, right? Yeah. The fact that obesity has become a problem in the US is shown by the fact that obesity rates have risen significantly over the past 4 decades. What? Oh, the fact that obesity has become a problem in the US is shown by the fact that. So this is an argument, isn't it? Because the conclusion is that obesity has become a problem in the US, and the premise is that obesity rates have risen significantly over the past 4 decades. I'm guessing that's an argument. Two statements, one conclusion, one premise that bolsters the conclusion. Yeah. I'd say it's an argument. Bob showed me a graph. Are we talking about Bob the arsonist? Bob showed me a graph with the rising obesity rates. And I was very surprised to see how much they've risen. Those are two statements, aren't they? They're not an argument. Albert isn't a fireman because Albert is a greyhound, which is a kind of dog, and dogs can't be firemen. The conclusion is that Albert is not a fireman, and the premises are that Albert is a dog, and dogs can't be firemen. Pretty based argument. That's the most based argument I've ever heard. Charlie and Violet are dogs, and since dogs don't sweat, it is obvious that Charlie and Violet don't sweat. It's just obvious if you think about it for 1 second. That's an argument. Is sense indicate that the premise of an argument will follow. Since dogs don't sweat, that's the premise. And this is the conclusion. It is obvious that Charlie and Violet don't sweat. Premise: Charlie and Violet are dogs. Premise: dogs don't sweat. Conclusion: Charlie and Violet don't sweat. All right. The reason I forgot to lock the door is that I was distracted by the clown riding a unicycle down our street while singing Lynyrd Skynyrd's Simple Man. What a hilarious example. I don't know if it's an argument, though. If it was an argument, it would be the conclusion is that he forgot to lock the door. And the premise would be he was distracted by these guys, by the clown unicycle. I feel like it's not an argument. It doesn't feel like an argument. The reason I forgot to lock the door is that I was distracted. This is the only part that matters, to ignore the clown, Leonard Skinner clown. This is just one statement. It would be an argument if he said, I forgot to lock the door because I was distracted by a clown riding a unicycle down our street while singing Leonard Skinner's Simple Man. I think this is just a statement, though. Because it starts with the reason. So the entire purpose of this sentence is to state the reason. What Bob told you, Bob the arsonist, is not the real reason that he missed his plane to Denver. That's just a statement, right? It is just a statement. Shut up. Bob. Bob, we love you, even though you're an arsonist. Hmm. Bob. Even though Bob lied about going to Denver, and even though Bob is an arsonist, Bob the arsonist, as he's well known, we still love Bob. But that's not an argument. What Bob told you is not the real reason he missed his plane to Denver. There's no. It's just a big statement. There's no conclusion or premise. Samsung stole some of Apple's patents for their smartphones. So Apple stole some of Samsung's patents back in retaliation. Hmm. Uh Premise conclusion? The conclusion is that Apple stole some of Samsung's patents, and the premise is that Samsung stole some of Apple's patents. Is it an argument? It kind of is. Or it's more like just a chain of events. But it has the structure of an argument if you just take the last chain of I love hearing that sound. So if you have a chain of events, number one, Samsung stole Apple's patents, and then number two, Apple stole Samsung's patents. I would normally just look at that as a chain of events. Event one, event two. But if it's going to be an argument, event two is the conclusion, and event one is the premise. I guess it's an argument. Or maybe, I don't know, it's like 50-50. It looks exactly like an argument, but it just kind of doesn't feel like an argument. But it could be an argument. I don't know. Really, totally unsure. I feel like that I would say yes on a test, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if the answer was no. And I feel like a philosophy teacher, I guess, could explain why it isn't the answer pretty easily. No one who has ever gotten frostbite will be climbing K2. Can you just read? No one who has ever gotten frostbite while climbing K2 has survived to tell about it. Therefore, no one ever will. That is an argument. This is the conclusion, is that no one will ever have frostbite. No one who climbed K2 and had frostbite will ever live to tell about it. And the conclusion is that that has never happened before. So it is an argument, but it's wrong. That's a logical fallacy, my friend. You have actually committed a logical fallacy. Bob. Bobby Hell. I can't look up Bobby. Oh, these are emojis. You know what ain't cool, Bobby? Hell. That's right, Bobby. I have this somewhere in my GIFs. You know what ain't cool, Bobby? Classic meme. Coffee's bitter. Arguments versus explanations. Oh, you know what? A whole bunch of those last arguments were probably explanations. Shit, do we need... Yeah, that's what all this was about. Okay, good. Alright, we got those. So this should be 3, right? 2.3. Yep. I'm getting sick of this shit. That's too damn bad! Let's set up iron, copper, steel. Need more stone. You sack of shit. I want stone! Give me all that. Also, I want some bricks. There's no way. Give me one more drill. Because I want stone, bricks, and landfill. So I need to put enough stone in here so that it builds up. And then also enough so I can feed a little bit of bricks and slowly fill a landfill. I don't want to use up all my landfill. Do that. I also need a bunch of shit. I need stuff for a spaceship, for a rocket station. A rocket, what is it? Rocket silo. Pipes. I have tons of concrete. Yep. And processing unit, electric engine, and a bunch of steel. I need more steel and a bunch more engines. Right? And I need cliff explosives. Engine unit and steel. Yo! Where the fuck the engine unit? Oh, wow. You know what? Take that out. Or, I don't care if you take it out. I just want steel. And don't grab that either. Fuck you, you stupid robot arm. I need steel to go in here. I have plenty of electric engine units. Remove those too. Steel's gonna be heavy. I don't need that many electric engine units. I need 200. I need 4 stacks. And that's maxed, so launch it up. And then just more steel. Got some repair packs too, thank God. Steel! More steel! Bring me my rocket. Bruh. 21 cars? What are they gonna do with 21 cars? Wow, 21 cars. The bugs are encroaching. Bomb the shit out of them. Bomb the shit out of them! Blow them up. I hate you little monsters. I don't care, just use all the fucking shells. Obliterate them. Fuck you, bugs. Did we research the speed? So does that actually make the artillery shell travel faster, or does it just, like, make them reload faster? Let's see. Oh, they travel faster, don't they? They do. So they're just more responsive. A little bit. Oh, shit. I should do some research. I don't have much to research, though, until I get my agricultural packs working. This is pretty cheap. Scrap productivity, but it's also very niche, so I don't really care. Oh, the agricultural science is going to be so cool. Shooting speed, range, plastic. It's all green science. Worker robot speed. I don't know. How? Bro, give him nutrients. Are you fucking insane? Fuck that. Yeah, a bunch of steel. That's what I like. Artillery, fresh artillery. Very fresh artillery. Look at all this fucking science. God damn! I need so much research for just the tiniest amount of damage increase. Let's do some of this. It's robot speed or productivity. We'll just do, this one's really cheap, so we'll do that. We need 3,000. We have more than enough. We have like 2, 3, 4, 5,000. Pink science. Why are we out of nutrients? Why are we out of nutrients? Start making nutrients. Right now. We're out of nutrients. Cook more shit. They're good, right? They just randomly ran out. Why did they run out? No clue. I don't want these. They're good, but I don't want them right now. How many of these do we need? Just 12. Boom. Splitter? What the fuck is that noise? I turned my volume up and I'm hearing shit that I never heard before. Ding, 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 ding. Man, fuck you. I hate that noise. So fucking scary. I'm so fucking scared right now. Based. Boom. Why is there spoilage? Okay, now we're seeing... Hold up, hold up. Dump that shit out. What's the issue here? Okay, you can grab that, or you can grab iron ore. Okay, cool. This is working okay, but this is... it's trash. I claim to be so good at Factorio, and I've spent a lot of time on it, but I need to redesign my factories to be, like, cool and efficient. Because there's, like, way cooler ways to make all this shit. Oh my god. I should just... You know what? Give everything way more space. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to give everything way more space, so that there's plenty of room to expand and to change things. This is something I'm proud of. I made a shitty... It's not shitty, but it's like a beginning spaghetti base. Where are these coming from? And it started up here in Volcanus. And I had, like, my main production was here, and I just had a few things here, and at some point, it was not enough room. So I tore everything apart, and I rebuilt these beautiful factories over here. Look at this. These, you know, they have lots of room, and they're set up very clean and nice, and there's room for everything to go everywhere, and it makes lots of shit. And these are scalable, I can add on and all that. This is cool. This is what I really like doing. I'm very proud of this. This is fucking insane, though. This feels like massive spaghetti. Mainly this oil section. And kind of everything down here is like, look, I can't make any more plastic because it's blocked by the red circuits. And I can't make more red circuits because it's blocked by the oil. Same with the carbon. Same with the battery. God forbid I want to make more batteries. I don't know if I need to on this planet, but... And then, like... These are fine, I guess. I don't know. How much steel do we have? 2, 4, 5. Let's launch one more rocket of steel up. Boom! And then stop doing that. I don't need any more. Take that out, right? Thank you. So he's going up there. And we'll have plenty, right? We'll have 900. Do I have any with me? I do. So that's plenty. So next, this guy needs to go to Volcanus and then back to Gleba. Do we have our shit yet? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, it should be fine. Now I want... Go to Volcanus. And here he's gonna pick up hopefully a couple stacks of cliff explosives. So we can demolish the cliffs. Why do we have to craft them on... Oh, they need calcite, I think, right? Yeah, that's mainly why. I don't know what the fuck calcite is, but... Where do I make the explosives? I can just search, right? Oh. How many do we have? 2 stacks? Make 4. Make 5. These are good to have, and they're not that expensive. Get to producing, Mr. Factory. Jesus. I don't need any of these fucking steam engines. I need the turbines. I need to like kill all of these. I should just recycle them. Iron. What the fuck? Okay. So we're good on these for now. I need steel. I need steel. Oh no. This shit's pissing me off. Alright, Volcano. Launch up some shit. How do I request? There. Cool. Request cliff explosives. What's the rocket capacity? 1 stack? Man, fuck you. Not missing material for construction. You piece of shit. Are we loaded? Launch it. Matter of fact. No, don't trash it. What are you doing? Launch it. How do you get it into the trash? Did I just magically make a new cliff explosive? How many do we want? I don't know. There's 20. So look. Oh, he's holding one. He's holding just one. No, 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 no. Oh my god, you piece of shit. We're supposed to deliver and then switch. Deliver. Switch. More explosives! Hold up. Come on. Where the fuck are they? How lazy are you? Jesus. You kidding me? We're just gonna wait here all fucking day. This factory pisses me off, quite frankly. If I had to redesign this, where we want a bus, with the most important stuff, I'm not sure how I would do that. Should I make fresh nutrients at every single stage, or should I just have a bus of nutrients? How can I do something just to make this easier? We need to put jelly nut and Yumako fruit on the bus. That's how it's going to be eventually. What can we fix here? Should we put Yumako fruit here? This is just too constrained. We need to spread it out. I don't know. It's irritating me. I want to play a different game. Are we ready to go yet? Alright, we need 3 more. Deliver 4? What do you have, 1 or 4? 2 more. Uno más. Wee. Oh. Blah. 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 Wow. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. You done? We have 20 seconds to burn this jelly nut. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. No! It's spoiled. That's fine. Caught it with 20 seconds left. Alright. Do we have some shit now? We got 80 of these. We got everything. Let's just go to Liba. And drop all that shit down so that we can make a rocket silo. And cliff explosives. Get this out of the way. Maybe some of these. I'm gonna need a shit ton of landfill for this. Is there a way to tell how much landfill I might need? I guess I'll just look at this. How much is all that? It's like 1,000 landfill. I don't have that much. How much do I have? Not enough. Cook shit faster. You incompetent fool. Box of rocks. That's what I want. I will be having the box of rocks, please. Do you guys actually sell the... Do you guys sell the box of rocks here? That would be quite a treat. If you guys could, sell me a box of rocks. I would like just one box of rocks to go. Actually, I'll take that box of rocks, for here. I'll eat it here. Are you even able to grab these? What is your major malfunction? Type shit. What is your major malfunction? I'm gonna like my own stream. Fuck you. I want to expand this, but I don't want to make some bullshit spaghetti. How do we make steel? Well, we want a thing of carbon and iron, and we're going to put it off into its own place and do all that. And we also need plastic. Do we have to deal with oil? I will actually be very relieved if we don't have to deal with oil. No, there's lubricant. Okay, no, it's actually... What are we using lubricant for? We actually don't need to set up a whole oil thing. We can just make everything with the belt items, which is really exciting. We need spoilage for, like, plastic or sulfur. What the hell do I need sulfur for? Sulfuric acid? Yeah. Yeah, I want to clean this up. Let's have some basic ass ingredients. Shit. Fuck, I don't have anywhere to put this shit. It's just gonna all spoil. Oh, that's really bad. Same with the jelly nuts. Well, we have way less of these. Cool. Oh, you nasty bugs! You nasty bugs! Blow them up. Beautiful. I like the increased shooting speed. It's much more violent. Throw one right there. Oh shit, that's about to be violent. Cool. Whoa! Only one destroyed? Look at this champion. Oh, we need agricultural science for flammables, damn. Well, shit. How about a baconator? I can't see a damn thing. Can't see a damn thing. What's that song? Trippy red song, can't see a damn. Am I inventing this in my own mind? Oh, I missed the rage. Okay. I'm about fixing to be fed up with this game. Because I don't want to destroy all my shit. And I don't have, like, everything else that I need. Let's drop all this down. No, not that! Alright. Yeah. Alright, here's a ton of shit. Cool. Steel. Explosives. Engines. With all this, we can definitely make a rocket silo. And we could probably load it with a rocket if I wanted to leave. But I feel like I need to stay here and figure this shit out. Especially because this place needs, like, manual intervention if it gets fucked up. And it's definitely going to get fucked up. I'm going to build a factory and I'm going to leave it alone. And unless I have, like, circuits, like a circuit network set up, it's going to get backed up. Either there's going to be way too much spoilage or we're going to run out of nutrients. It's going to be one of those things. Either way, we're going to run out of nutrients and this entire planet will stop functioning. There has to be a way for on the circuit network to read how much nutrient charge is left, and you should be able to keep a little bit just to eat some spoilage, and that'll like kickstart everything else. You just need to make one nutrient. If you can make one, you have enough to make everything else. But if you use up your last one, and I'm not here to make more nutrients, the machines can't do it themselves if they don't have it. Today. So today is Thursday, it's my day off. And I close tomorrow, I think. My phone. Close tomorrow. Saturday's gonna be evil. 'Cause I am gonna open at my store, and then I'm going to go to another store, and I'm going to close their store. That's going to be wicked as fuck. And then Sunday, oh my god, Sunday I'm going to open again. And then I have Monday and Tuesday off. But I am stealing tons of hours. How many more hours should I get this week? Because let's see, I normally get 20. That's what it's almost always is. It's about 20. It only goes up if I take another shift usually. Schedule for this week. So yesterday was supposed to be 4 hours. Let's just... Here we go. 4 hours. Friday is going to be 4 hours. Saturday is going to be... What's 8:30 to 2? 5.5. Then Sunday's also 5.5. That's 19 hours makes sense. I remember seeing it's usually about 19 hours, a little over 19 hours. So I've only worked that Wednesday yesterday, and I already have 7 hours. So that was supposed to be 4. It was actually 7. So that's 22 hours. And then an entire closing shift, I think it's from like 3 to 8:45. What is that? That's 5.5 hours. Ooh, 27.5 hours. Not bad. It's a lot better. Roughly times 15. So for this week, that would be $412-ish, $400. Which is really good. Normally my paycheck is about $550. And that's across 2 weeks. So if I worked like this for 2 weeks, it would be like 800. Or it could be. Let's back up, dude. 412. You fucking 412.5. But I have to figure out this other shit. So no, I get paid at the end of this week, so it would be my next paycheck. It'd be hard to figure out. Well, I could calculate what my next paycheck should be at the end of this week, because we have 22 point... It's basically 23. Plus, we'll just say 16. 39 times... Did I say 15 or 14? Let's underestimate. 14. It's gonna be about $546. This is what my normal paycheck looks like. It's like 500 to $550. With a 27-hour week? That's what this was, right? 27.5-hour week plus, say, a normal 19. That's 46 times. That's like an extra $100. It's not... Wish it was better. That's why I need to take all these extra hours, because every few extra hours I take is another chunk of my paycheck. Thank God. Let's just get through these. Just do more schoolwork. That's the shit. Okay, by the end of this section, you will discover the difference between arguments and explanations. Thank you. So far, I have defined arguments in terms of premises and conclusions, where the premises are supposed to provide a reason, support/evidence, for accepting the conclusion. Many times, the goal of giving an argument is simply to establish that the conclusion is true. For example, when I'm trying to convince someone that the obesity rates are rising in the US, I may cite evidence such as studies from the CDC and the National Institute of Health. The studies I cite would function as premises for the conclusion that obesity rates are rising. For example, we know that obesity is on the rise in the US because multiple studies carried out by the CDC and NIH, National Institute of Health, have consistently shown a rise in obesity over the last 4 decades. We could put this simple argument into standard form like this. Number 1, multiple studies by the CDC and NIH have consistently shown a rise in obesity over the last 4 decades. Therefore, obesity is on the rise in the United States. Literally so true. So based and so true. Obama! I wanted to check what was my understanding is that an argument is a claim or conclusion that is supported with some justification. I was so fucking right. Kind of. Yeah, I knew that. This is like really ironed it out, but I'm glad I knew that. The standard form argument clearly distinguishes the premise from the conclusion and shows how the conclusion is supposed to be supported by the evidence offered in the premise. Again, the goal of this simple argument would be to convince someone that the conclusion is true. However, sometimes we already know that a statement or claim is true, and we are trying to establish why it is true, rather than that it is true. Okay. An argument that attempts to show why its conclusion is true is an explanation. Uh-oh. Contrast the previous example with the following. The reason that the rate of obesity is on the rise in the US is the foods we most often... Is that the foods... Oh my god. The reason that the rate of obesity is on the rise in the US is that the foods we most often consume over the past 4 decades have increasingly contained high levels of sugar and low levels of dietary fiber. Since eating foods high in sugar and low in fiber triggers the insulin system to start storing those calories as fat, it follows that people who consume foods high in sugar and low in fiber will tend to store more of the calories consumed as fat. Explanation. An argument that attempts to establish not that a conclusion is true, but why a conclusion is true. An explanation is a type of argument? So the only thing I have is arguments. establish that an argument, or that a conclusion is true, whereas explanations establish why a conclusion is true. Cool. Obama. This passage gives an explanation for why obesity is on the rise in the US. Unlike the earlier example, here it is taken for granted that obesity is on the rise in the US. So it's not arguing. And assumes that the conclusion. Explanations already assume the conclusion is true, and okay. Let's take it for granted that obesity is on the rise in the US. That is the claim whose truth we are trying to explain. We could put the obesity explanation into standard form, just like any other argument. In order to do this, I will make some paraphrases of the premises and conclusion of the argument. Over the last 4 decades, Americans have increasingly consumed foods high in sugar, low in fiber. Consuming foods high in sugar, low in fiber, high in sugar and low in fat, fiber, low in fiber, triggers the insulin system to start storing those calories as fat. When people store more calories as fat, they tend to become obese. Therefore, the rate of obesity is on the rise in the US. So is this just like a... I guess this does assume that it's true, but it is still an argument. It's just that instead of justifying only the conclusion, you are still justifying the conclusion. I feel like if you want to be autistic, explanations and arguments are the exact same thing. And the only thing I'm getting is that there's a little bit of a distinction, not very clear one, that explanations assume the conclusion is true and they explain things. So because of that, they're explaining things basically just in more depth. But it's still the exact same thing. I guess. I don't know. Because like you can make this doesn't need to be an explanation. This is an argument. I can make the exact same argument that obesity is on the rise in the US using all of these premises. In fact, it's at least as strong of an argument as the first argument that the CDC and NIH have consistently shown that a rise in obesity over the last 4 decades. Therefore, obesity is on the rise in the U.S. This is at least as convincing of an argument as that. I don't know. Maybe there's a clearer way to distinguish an argument and an explanation. Hello? Audio's working? Okay, it said it wasn't for a second. It's because I stopped yapping. Right? Bitrate? Yeah, we're good. Notice that in this explanation, the premises 1 to 3 attempt to give a reason for why the conclusion is true, rather than a reason for thinking that the conclusion is true. Sounds like the same thing to me. It's just like a small distinction that could, as small and not very clear distinction to me. Because these are also, they're not just explaining why a conclusion is true, they're also, how are they not explaining that a conclusion is true? I don't like this explanation. Or this distinction between arguments and explanations. Seems like a small and not always clear distinction between explanation and argument. Explanation. I'm not spelling it right. It's just correcting it for me. I didn't even fucking know I was spelling it wrong. I don't want the fucking AI. They sound like the exact same thing. Okay, hold on. Okay, what's the difference between an argument and an explanation? Homework help. I know that this question is already asked 2 years ago, but I couldn't understand the explanation. Neither do I! I tried to Google it as well, it's the same thing. I read that an argument can answer the question, how do you know? While an explanation answers the question, why is that so? Oh. I get the difference in thinking, but I feel like you could just swap them out for each other. Why it is true rather than that it is true. Yeah, whatever, man. That's the whole point of it. That's it. Explanation. You're assuming that something is true and you're trying to explain why. I feel like it's just a difference in approach or perspective, but the structure and the result is kind of the same, it seems like. I'll have to think about it more. Understanding. Okay, they're going to give us an understanding of why a conclusion is true after we already accept and assume that it's true. Type of argument. We just have distinguished between two types of arguments. Those that establish that a conclusion is true, which are arguments. And so it's just a type of argument. It's still, I feel like it's still, I guess, it's still establishing that a conclusion is true, but it's also has the perspective of explaining why and assuming that it's true. I don't know. Okay, what's an explanation and what's an argument? I'm gonna hate these. Okay, identify the main conclusion of each argument or explanation. Remember, if the premise seems to be establishing that a conclusion is true, is an argument, but if the premise seems to be establishing why a conclusion is true, it's an explanation. Those sound like the exact same thing to me. Let's see. Maybe it's a little bit clearer. Wanda rode the bus today because her car was in the shop. That should be an argument. Since Wanda didn't have enough money in her bank account, she has not yet picked up her car from the shop. I don't know. It sounds like an argument, but it could be an explanation because I guess you're just casually explaining what's going on. Either Bob or Henry rode the bus to work today, but it wasn't Henry because I saw him riding his bike to work. Therefore, it was Bob. This is an argument because it doesn't seem like these people already know what the conclusion is. They're like working their way towards it in this argument. It can't be snowing right now since it only snows when it's 32 degrees or below, and right now it is 40 degrees. I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, then it's an explanation. Oh, and if it's not true, it's just a bad explanation. Does it only snow when it's freezing? Oh, so the air in the clouds must be freezing. Okay. This is, I don't know. The reason some people with schizophrenia hear voices in their head is that the cognitive mechanism that monitors their own self-talk is malfunctioning, and they attribute their own self-talk to some external source. That sounds like an explanation. If it's correct, it's assuming that the conclusion is true, and it's just saying, yes, this is why. Fracking should be allowed because, although it does involve some environmental risk, it reduces our dependence on foreign oil. And there is much greater harm to the environment due to foreign oil drilling than there is due to fracking. That's an argument. I don't know. Let's just look at the last one and then I'm done for now. The reason people's allergies worsen when they move to Cincinnati is that the pollen count in Cincinnati is higher than almost anywhere else in the surrounding area. That's an explanation. It's just a difference in perspective, but structure is the same, but I guess you can kind of tell. It's just like it's not very clean because I feel like if you're getting into an argument with someone, they're gonna present all of their arguments as explanations. And if you reviewed like an argument between two people, unless they're perfect philosophers, I feel like the majority, or at least like half of their arguments, using what we learned here, those arguments would be categorized as explanations just because of how they're worded. Explanations are just worded slightly differently in a way that assumes that it's true. But I'm done with this for now. I'm gonna get off. Get out!